Los Angeles, and most Hollywood nights. She comes to California, California.
What you say about Los Angeles?
LA got the people saying.
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on Thursday, July 14th. The LA Galaxy coming off of a 3-2 loss to San Jose. I could have said they're coming off a 3-2 loss to LAFC, or maybe I could say they're coming off a 3-2 loss to Minnesota United. Maybe I could tell you they gave up 3 first-half goals like they did to Dallas, Houston, Minnesota, and San Jose. I could say all those things, but I won't because I'm nice. We have a lot to talk about. Obviously, the San Jose game is at front of mind as the LA Galaxy get ready for a short weekend heading to Colorado, the Mile High City, where they'll take on the Rapids, a place they haven't won in a very, very long time. In order to help me do all this, he's back as well. Hopefully he's feeling very, very hammerish today. It's the Hammer himself, Mr. Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. Hammer, how's it going, bud?
Burn it down, rebrand. I think we're upset. The chat's upset. Yeah,
I like it.
We're ready to everybody out. All DPs out, players out, coaches out, front office out, rebrand the whole club, new stadium, scorched earth. That's how we're feeling today.
Yeah, I like it. It's Sherman's March to the Sea. That's it. Just burn it all. Burn it all.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, but I will say you missed a show. Are you okay? How are you feeling?
Oh, COVID. I was on my COVID vacation. I think it pretty clearly I got sick at the July 4th game. I think that's where I picked up whatever I picked up. And there was a bunch of people who got sick in the press box and all that fun stuff. So I tested positive on Friday morning, because Thursday morning I took a test before I went to work because I was like, I don't want to get anybody sick, so let me take a test. So I was negative on Thursday morning. Went to work, fever, all that fun stuff. I was like, man, I think I better go home. So I went home, fell asleep for 8 or 9 hours, whatever it was, woke up, took a test, popped positive, and was like, yeah, that makes sense. I can see that. So
unfortunate.
Very weird. I know there's a bunch of people probably in the chat room and listening that have had it, but very weird to finally see it turn positive after all this time and all these tests of negative. So
I will say, not to make it about me, but I'm going to make it about me. That leaves last man standing. I'm one of the very few in 2022 still haven't been hit.
We're playing that dodgeball game,
yeah,
right?
So don't, if you're thinking about coming out to Dallas, end of July, do not bring that over here. I've stayed clear all these years, so hopefully, knock on wood, can remain healthy, and hopefully you're on the path to health. I know it's swirling around again. Good times. So
it is. Luckily, my wife and my son didn't catch it, so I'm like, so far so good. My test today was like the faintest of faintest shadow lines that you've ever seen. It's like if you looked at it real quick, you'd be like, oh, negative, and then if you turn it and it's like a hologram, you twist it in the light a little bit, you could see. So I have the faintest little line there. One of the reasons that we didn't have a Monday show was my wife was staying in the room where I record, and she's like, you cannot go in there and talk for an hour and a half and spew all your COVID.
Yeah, you'll be coughing. I will say that there are some people who I've listened to podcasts on religiously. So there's some podcasts I listen to and hosts who have had it, they power through a show, and there's nothing worse than listening to someone with that COVID horse cough halfway through the show. It's like, okay, just this is this is not worth it. Yeah, we'll get back to it once everyone's healthy and happy.
$5 super chat from Mr. Provino says, tank the season for those sweet super draft picks. That's what it is. That super draft. It'll change. Things.
Yeah. Who's the number one NCAA product that we got lined up here?
I'll say just in COVID terms, I'm about 90%, somewhere right around there, 90%. We'll call it 90%. But yeah, the COVID brain is real. Just being tired and like doing one thing and being like, I think I'm going to go take a nap for 4.5 hours, that type of thing. So all good. So I watched the LAFC game. Thought the Galaxy actually played pretty well overall. Just, again, individual mistakes. I think the key here, and this is going to be a key down the stretch, we're going to look at San Jose. But the key here has been not necessarily team mistakes, but individual mistakes. And you can see it, you pick it up, and you're like, that has to be better. And I will say that the defense has regressed, and you've seen it. And Eric, you and I were talking before we started this, and it was like, there used to be a roughness to the defense, right? There was we're going to get in your face. We're going to stomp on your feet. We're going to kick you. We're going to push you around. We're not going to make life easy for you. And in the last probably 4 or 5 games, especially whenever you go to all of 3-goal games, that there's been a softness on defense.
Yeah. I was going to say, it seems like it's, for lack of a better term, it's just brain farts, mental lapses. This is, like you said, early on in the season, Koulibaly had a great start to the season. Williams is someone who had that edge to him. Araujo always plays, with that chip on his shoulder. And then Edwards as well. They were just always going to chase you down. And I don't know, for whatever reason, that edge seems to have gone, and they just seem, I think the time off from Koulibaly obviously did him no favors.
Right.
And then that chemistry in the middle with Williams, not having that partner, the consistent partner, that obviously has had an effect. Araujo, being hit and miss and on and off. And then Edwards, who, started the season on fire, just has taken a little bit of a dive, isn't bringing that same, not contributing to the offense like he was, but also is not defensively as sharp as maybe he was. He was making some great tackles and some great recoveries early on in the season. And it seems like at every position on the back line, there's either been mental lapses at one point or another, or as a collective, they just either seem to not trust each other, and they either try to cover where they don't need to, or, they just, seem to lack the ability to remember positioning, or losing your man in the box, like, on a set piece. That's a no-brainer. Like, you got to be better than that.
Williams has been horrible about that. And he's playing a zone too, right? So like, realistically, a zone allows you to attack the ball, right? I mean, more than anything, sometimes when we play man-to-man, your man can take you away from the ball, and so you can't necessarily attack the ball. But he's
that's
playing
not
zone.
What's happening.
No, he's playing zone in the center.
Yeah. These open players are just there. And then, with the errant passes, and I'm sure we'll get into that with the San Jose game, and just it seems like there's just they mentally shut off for moments, and then for all the fun that we had last week talking about the mental midgets of LAFC, it seems like when the Galaxy go down a goal or they have something bad happen, they get in their own head, and they just, they stop playing the game, and it becomes more mental gymnastics. And then the only thing that comes from that is just you may end up making more mistakes. So it's really sad to see. There has been a decline, and we talk about this about every time in the show that, they've been bad all season. They haven't been bad all season. No. They were playing well, and now they're not. And so you can't say, well, they played well earlier. Okay, yeah, maybe they played well earlier, but now they're not playing well. And so you have to call it out when it's not going well right now.
Well, and it's crazy because realistically, they're actually pretty dangerous right now in terms of creating chances and going forward. And they're ruthless. And I would say ruthless. I would say ruthless in the idea that the ball never goes in the back of the net, but that they're very much again and again and again. They send the waves forward. They're attacking. They're getting guys in the box. I mean, one of the biggest things that has happened probably in the last maybe 3 or 4 games is Raveloson taking a more forward position.
Yeah, and that's been noticeable.
He has been making runs from the midfield. He's opening up space. He is part of the offense. The offense is running through a lot more through Raveloson, and you're not just reliant on playing the ball into Grandsir or Edwards, although that is route number 1 is Grandsir, get in the box, cut inside, and pass and dish and do all those stuff. They have the edge that you would want them to have, and you want them to finish eventually, but we'll get there, baby steps, right? But they have that edge on offense. It's the defensive side of things where it hasn't, and it's almost like Edwards and Araujo, they really enjoy attacking. Defense, that's a lot of work. Yeah. I'd rather not do that. And so if there's one idea that I would put into their heads, especially Araujo and Edwards, is you are defenders. You defend first. I will take a 0-0 game all day long, then lose another game 3-2 or give up 3 goals in the first half. And when you see Edwards playing out of position, when you see Araujo getting caught, I mean, the third goal is Araujo and Efrain Alvarez just screwing up from the top of the field all the way to the back. Araujo actually makes, I think, 2 or 3 mistakes on that one goal.
Yeah.
And just not continuing his run to come all the way back. And he's a hustler, and he made some good plays in the game, and he made some good crosses. But again, you're a defender first. You need to defend first, and let's talk about the San Jose. Let's get into some more of the details. Being we're talking about it more in generalities, but another 3-2 game for the LA Galaxy, which is, I think this is their third out of the last 4 that ended 3-2, and they lost. The only opposite one there is their 4-0 win over Montreal, which was a dismantling of a team that was a very good team. San Jose, not a very good team. First time in 9 games that they get a win on the road. That's nice. Good job, San Jose.
And players scoring their first goal of the season. That's always nice when you give those gifts away.
So you go into it, and it all starts, and the mistakes that are made, and it cannot be, I think Brian Schmetzer says this a lot, and Greg Vanney doesn't use it. He should use it. Goals change games, right? And penalty kicks change games, right? And the Galaxy can't buy a penalty kick right now, and the only one I thought was possibly a penalty kick was the Edwards one where the hand came up into his neck and he sort of got pushed over from his neck.
Okay. I think that's tough. That's tough to call that. The one thing that I will give MLS credit for, and I've said this a lot of time, is with their VAR review, is that if whatever the referee call is, unless it's like clear and I think they're very good with the clear and obvious part of it, that if it's very clearly wrong, then you have to turn it. But that's the thing, because it's so subjective, it's very rarely like so obviously wrong that you say, well, if it was called the other way, you can't, there's not enough there to overturn it. But if it's called a penalty, then there's not enough to say it's not a penalty. So I think the referee has a lot was not still in that regard. And so I think that's what I saw
too much
with that
though.
As well. And the same with Cabral in the second half. Yeah.
Yeah, the Cabral foul was not a foul for me. He won the ball, and then Cabral landed on him more than anything. So I didn't have a problem with that. But the Edwards one was at least borderline. And I know that Scott French, actually, who was at the game, put in a pool reporter question. He copied me on it. You don't want to know the answer, which was Scott basically said, well, there was contact with Edwards in his neck and his head, and that caused him to go over. And the response basically was there was not enough contact to force him over. And it was like, no, you could see it. I mean, there's stuff. And Vanney, to his point, was like, I'm done taking a look at these, arguing with these. Yeah. He goes, nobody ever apologizes. He goes, it was funny. He goes, because I'm tired of the apologies. He goes, wait a minute, nobody would ever apologize. Yeah. The whole deal. He goes, but I'm tired of it. He goes, it doesn't matter. Our guys have to play better. And it's one of those things we can't worry about that anymore. Yeah. So when you see Julian Araujo do one of the most boneheaded things you could possibly do when he had cover on the inside from Koulibaly.
That's the kicker. Yeah.
It's such a like he could have not run with him and it would have been better. Mm-hmm. Literally, he was covered and he goes to run into him. He just ran into him, his back.
Well, we'll talk about the other 2 goals, but like if he would have just stayed up on the 6-yard box on the opposing side attacking, we would have been better off. And so the funny thing about this is I think for the opening 10 minutes, the Galaxy looked great. The wings were pushing forward. They were whipping in crosses. They were looking dangerous. And that was just a bonehead play. It was clumsy. It was unnecessary. It seemed, I was talking about the lack of trust. It seems like, well, if Koulibaly has it covered, why do I need to go in there and run into somebody? And I don't know whether that's a true lack of trust or it's just a mental lapse. But then, they go down a goal. And to your point, it's, goals change games. But the way the Galaxy have played and they've clawed back, you say, you know what? For opening 10 minutes, don't peak too soon. You let in a penalty. This is fixable. You have guys who are capable of scoring goals. You're going to, bomb those wing backs forward. That's not an insurmountable, deficit giving up a penalty and going down a goal. But then on the kickoff, literally on the kickoff, to completely shut off and then have, that to me was the worst moment of the match, because you go down a goal. This is your chance to, make it right and get back on the same track, and you're shut off completely. And I don't know what causes that or how you fix that, but Koulibaly, that giveaway, the hesitation from Williams, and then Koulibaly, being slow to get to the right spot after giving it up. That was disastrous. And it seems like that's where you lost the game. Obviously the third goal really iced it and made it, too deep of a hill to climb out of. But even down 2 goals, you said maybe, there's something that the Galaxy could still do, but down 3 was just too big of a hole. And it was self-inflicted wounds. This was something where last night and the chat was kind of doing it before our show even got started. Everyone's burn it all down. This is horrible. This is the worst team we've ever seen. They're still in playoff position. I hate to break it to you guys. They're still, the season is not over. There's still an ability to right the ship. But so I'm saying, okay, this wasn't that bad. I've seen the Galaxy play worse, in particular against Houston, against Dallas. This was not on the full 90 minutes, a disastrous performance. There were good flashes in there, and that's considering that they were without Mark Delgado and without Chicharito being put on the league health and safety protocols. But then I looked at the stats, and the stats actually made me angrier. They outshot, they outpossessed, they beat them in XG, and it was just they gave San Jose that game. And so I'm all about going back to the LAFC game. You go away to whether we obviously hate them, but they're a decent team, and there's no shame in going down on your sword. But when you give away those 2 goals in quick succession, when you give away the same goal right after the kickoff, you're basically shooting yourself in the foot, and that's the issue with this Galaxy team right now.
Yeah, it's little individual mistakes, and again, it's not team shape, and it's not the way the team is set up. Listen, I mean, I don't love Victor Vasquez playing in the midfield with Daniel Aguirre, with Efrain Alvarez, with Granger. I don't love it, right? But at the same time, give me the alternatives in this, right? There aren't very many. And one of the reasons is you have Delgado out, right? You don't have Chicha. So, there are things that don't allow you to do certain things. And listen, you got Dayon starting. There was no... Dayon scored 2 very good goals. Dayon had more than enough firepower on this team. And quite honestly, the Galaxy had more than enough firepower to win that game. And
two goals should have been enough. You look at the XG, the Galaxy at 2.3 XG, San Jose 1.7. So, the Galaxy 2 goals should have been enough to get them, but literally gifting 3 goals, you're not going to win those games. And it's going to be very difficult to get points on that game. And I'll talk about Vasquez as well. Last season, we mentioned how Vasquez was an integral part. You need someone who has that magic, can put the balls in, really has the special touch, knows the game very well, smart player. You need someone like that on the field. This season, it's just not there. And I hate to say it, and was for someone who has as much talent as he has, but he looks like someone who's just a complete shell of himself, and that was the concern last year. You say, well, at his age, at what point are the wheels going to fall off? I think the wheels have officially fallen off, because now you can't say, well, with his age is when his injuries. At least, giving us some minutes, he'll be able to create some things. Now he's actually more of a liability on the field than he is a help at this point in the season.
Yeah, missing easy passes, right? He had
that's the one thing he should be able to do. Yeah.
Yeah, there was a breakout at one point, and the ball came into Vasquez, and he had to turn, and he had 2 guys. He had one guy going one direction, one guy going the other direction, and he could have hit either of them, and instead he hits it, and it's taken away. Alvarez is guilty of that as well. And listen, I want to believe that all the talk with Zlatan saying, oh, he's the most talented player, and all these things that we've seen over the years with him, I want to pretend that isn't the reason that he is the way that he is, which is what looks like be a fairly unmotivated player who has some subpar tendencies to give the ball away, to put crosses into places where there's nobody there. Whenever he shoots, to hit it right at the goalkeeper, to run around his right foot consistently to the point where he's constantly short-siding himself and giving himself less time because he has to hit it with his left foot. I want to say that all that didn't go in. I want to say that the new bleached blonde hair that he has going on there has nothing to do with the attitude that you see on the field. And I would have to believe that if the Galaxy were in a position not to play him, to not have to play him, because right now with Vasquez not producing, Alvarez is one of the few 10s, and Costa's not there. We'll talk about Costa in a little bit, but Costa's not there to give you your 65, 75 minutes that you need out of him, right? All those things. I would imagine that he rides the bench. And Logan gave us a $5 super chat, says Efrain Alvarez is a below average USL player. That's not true. He's actually a very good USL player. There's a huge gap between USL and Major League Soccer, and we see it every single time.
I was going to say, I don't know how many times I've said the quadruple A theory. Yeah, too good for USL, not quite good enough for MLS. And to your point with that dancing around, to the left foot on that play in particular with the shot on goal where it was played in, where a right-footed striker could have either hit that or taken it further wide to open up the space in the middle for Joveljic. There was a lot of discourse yesterday about, well, not every player, is strong with both feet. And I understand that, but you can't be a liability on your weak foot.
No.
You still have to be able to utilize your weak foot.
Do
The frustrating part with that is that if you're going to dance around and position your body to hit it with your left, then that's your strong foot. It needs to be a good shot to put yourself out of position, swing your body around, put your hips out of position, and then still not hit it well. That's the frustrating part, because you might as well have just hit it with your right and had a weak shot at the key. The result would have been the same regardless. So when you make you're a liability and you put yourself in that situation and you still can't do it, that's really frustrating to watch.
Yeah, it's over, and it's over and over again. That's a culmination of things too, right? I mean, you can go back and look at this game. There were plenty of guys who had chances to score again in this game. Grandshear, by the way, is probably the most. To me, he's more frustrating than any player on this field, because he constantly, even more so than Cabral, gets in positions to score or to be dangerous and just doesn't have it. He rushes it, like he doesn't catch it cleanly, like the whole deal. Cabral got an assist. Yay, everybody. He got an assist. He also missed a sitter from 4 yards out. I mean, and by the way, Eric, I mean, not to be, a complete dick to you, but I would put my money on you hitting that harder than he did.
Listen, I will toot my own horn. Inside that range, that as a former forward, that is a position that I could have put away. This is one of those Katie Nolan used to have a show where, she'd take people who tweeted out that they could make that, and then she'd have them, kick field goals and do things, and they just completely botch it. Yeah. But again, I feel like I'd do better than Kevin Cabral on that particular one. But that goes back to the mental side of it. I think Kevin Cabral, everything is so smooth, and then at the very end, that finishing product is not there.
It's Clank.
And with
Clank, and his new nickname is Clank,
or the yips, to do a Ted Lasso
right?
Ism, and then the same thing with Grandsir. Grandsir, the funny thing is he's had that goal against LAFC where he was in the right position and he slotted it home, but that wasn't necessarily what he always does. He usually creates the space, gets open in front of goal, and then kicks it at the keeper or kicks it out of bounds. It was that goal that he scored was actually the opposite of what he normally does. So maybe his move isn't necessarily creating that space. Maybe it's camping out and waiting and doing a give and go and waiting for that service. Maybe that, he could take a page out of his own book to make it work there.
Well, I mean, again, if you look at the LAFC game and him scoring that goal, and we didn't get a chance to sort of talk about that, so we can talk a little bit about it, is that's all Raveloson again. Raveloson pulling out wide, opening up space for Grandshear to run inside, right? And it's one of those, it's like late run, good job, good box, right? Everything there was a good play, well timed. The LAFC game didn't lack intensity for me. Yeah. I'm perfectly fine with that loss. You can't make the mistakes that you do and expect to win that game. But at the same time, the intensity was there. For the most part, the defense was there. You can talk, again, this team gives up goals in bunches, right? Short amount of times. And that is an emotional thing. I asked Greg Vanney about it afterwards. That's an emotional intelligence thing. Getting down. It's like you get kicked in the balls. Yeah, it hurts. Guess what? Get up, put a smile on your face, say, we're going to get it back, and be determined. And instead, and listen, there's two things that I learned from watching this game and watching Fox. And everybody should know I'm not a fan of Fox. So I will say that straight out. Number one is that apparently Stu Holden is a better dead ball hitter than Douglas Costa, because he was saying, he just tried to hit it too hard and all this. Stu, shush.
Are you not supposed to hit free kicks hard?
Like, just be quiet.
Last I checked, you got to hit those.
Let the professional take it, Stu. Let the professional take. This is why you could never have somebody like me be your color analyst, because you'd be like, Josh doesn't know what he's talking about. Except that you have people who rarely know what they're talking about, right? Especially whenever you're talking about a guy who's as accomplished as Douglas Costa. Now, listen, Douglas Costa. That was the one thing. The other thing that I learned. Let's see. There were two things. We were talking about weak foots. And sort of it's like you said, you're right. Your other foot can't be a liability. You know who has a really good left hand foot? That's a good one. You know who has a really good left hand foot? Dejan Joveljic.
A banger with his left foot. Just an absolute.
Now, did he hit it a little bit like I would try to hit it with my left foot? Does it look a little clumsy, like in the way he does it? But he pured that in order to get it. It didn't look pretty whenever he went to hit it, but when it hit his foot, it took off like a rocket.
Yeah, but it's also, it goes to, he did what the defense allowed him to do. Is he wasn't going to be able to go right. That's where the defenders were. It was the cuts to the left. So he wasn't going to dance around to go to his right foot. Where the shot was available was on his left foot. And he said, I'm a goal scorer. This is what I want to do. I'm going to shoot it with my left foot. And, he hit the lotto. You got to buy a ticket.
That's right. You got to try, right? You got to put it in there. And so, you see those moves and stuff like that. I mean, Joveljic has scored more goals in, let's see, I forget. I think the last 10 games. Yeah. Hold on. I actually have the actual stat on it.
Yeah, he has 8 goals in 522 minutes.
Yeah.
That's just wild. Yeah.
His total to 7 goals in his last 6 MLS matches since this run began in late May. No player in MLS has scored more times than Joveljic. And the bottom line is the kid has the ability to play for 90 minutes. And I think you're going to see him play for 90 minutes against Colorado again, because I don't think Chicha is going to and Delgado are going to be back.
And the one critique of him that I've seen out there as well, he disappears in moments. It's like, hate to break it to you, Zlatan disappeared in moments. Landon Donovan disappeared in moments. Robbie Keane did not play 90 minutes where he was an attacking threat for all 90 minutes. Like, that's what forwards do. They show up in moments and they score, 1 or 2 goals, and that's what their job is. Their job isn't to score a goal every minute, So yeah, you're going to disappear in moments as a forward. That's just the nature of the position. It's like a goalkeeper. Goalkeeper isn't going to constantly be making saves, hopefully,
But I've watched the goalkeepers try that. Marcinkowski, by the way, with 9 saves, was a guy who was constantly making saves.
Yeah, but when they're called upon, they come up big, and that's the same thing with strikers. When he's called upon, he came up big, and that's what happened. So going back to the second half, I thought when Cabral and Costa came on, they did change the game. They brought that energy. It was a lifeline, but then it fizzled. It seems like as time went on, they lost that frantic energy that they had San Jose on the heels, but then when San Jose adjusted,
once
San Jose adjusted, they fixed it.
Yeah, and you're like good adjustment. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. And listen, Costa's not ready to play 45 minutes balls to the wall yet, although he's getting closer. I do think Vanney said he was about 40 minutes fit. I would put him right around that probably, so that way you can get a good 40 minutes out of him. I don't know what you're going to look like in Colorado with Douglas Costa, but again, I saw a lot of national people suddenly paying attention to the game, right? And they were like, "Oh, this is the best that Douglas Costa has played," and it's like, yeah, except it started against Minnesota, right? And then he decided to get himself ejected in the 95th minute, right? So, I mean, boneheaded play. But he was very dynamic and very game-changing in that Minnesota game. He was
hungry. Yeah,
he comes in second time, right? He comes in. Here's the problem I have with the LA Galaxy, and sometimes I think they're such idiots for stuff. They don't do things over and over again whenever they've shown success. What happens whenever they come out of the second half? When they make those changes, they put Cabral and Joveljic. Yeah, sure, they're playing up together as forwards. We'll call it that, right? So what's the first ball that gets played over the top into a sprinting Cabral? Did you see that again the entire night? No, you didn't. And it's like, guys, go to that ball over and over and over again. Make them tired. Cabral has the legs, and he was there ready to make that run. And by the way, I'm done with Cabral. You can bench him. I don't care. Because quite honestly, it's like, what are you going to give it to me outside of an assist? And I'm glad you did. But what else are you going to give it to me? Are you going to whiff it on the 4-yard line? Because if you're going to do that, then you know what? Put Adam Saldana in. I'd rather him whiff it from 4 yards out.
Yeah, he's still healing. But yeah, sorry. Now it's the Commercial Underground had said last week we were talking about Dion as a super sub, and now we're saying he's got to get those 90 minutes. A lot changes in a week, I think it's the same mentality. I think with Cabral, that's where I was going with my train of thought here. Is he obviously, when he came off the bench, he was hungry. He was, wanting to sprint. And so maybe that's what he needs. He needs to go to the bench, and you need to, get him motivated to come in with his hair on fire and to start making some plays. If that's what you need to do, then that's what you need to do. So it's unfortunate that, our DPs, we have to rely on our DPs as guys who are coming off the bench to save. Yeah. Why can't we count on these guys for 90 minutes? And I think that's a lot of the frustration that you're seeing with the fan base and the criticism is, we're basically playing at 1/3 of the firepower of the rest of the league. And then when you have, a health and safety protocol happen, then you're, have 0 DPs starting the game, and that creates a whole issue within itself. So it was just an embarrassing performance. Definitely in the first half, it was salvageable, but they just dug themselves too deep of a hole. And so I think we're really coming to a head with frustration. And fortunately, there's still plenty of games to right the ship. It just they're in a slump right now, or they're in a bit of a funk. 2 derbies where you end up dropping points, 3-2, you give up mental lapses. So whatever kumbaya moments or whatever they need to do to get their mentals right. It seems like it's possible, but then again, like when you look, I was looking at 538. They've dropped 7% since our last show for making the playoffs. They went from 78% to 71%.
Yeah.
So it can change that quickly.
Yeah.
But when you look at our roster and our construction, like, okay, maybe this isn't, the MLS Cup Supporter Shield winning team, but this isn't a wooden spoon team.
No.
They should be performing better than that. And so,
but here's the
which
problem,
team is going to show up? It's a frustrating part. You're not getting that consistency.
But the Western Conference is such a coin flip right now that like you could fall into a wooden spoon and not even be as horrible as some teams this year, right? I mean, the whole deal is that
well, look at SKC. Yeah,
this is the golden lining, or sort of the silver lining to everything, is that most of the underdogs won last night. It was not a game where the Galaxy could have easily gotten shuffled out of every position, like rather easily. Seattle lost and Dallas, I think, drew, and they only got
Dallas
a point.
Lost. Yeah.
Oh, Dallas lost. Yeah. So I mean, all the teams that were around the Galaxy lost, and so really, it kind of just treaded water. Everybody just sort of stayed where they were. Austin jumped up and now is in the Supporter Shield, race and up on the Western Conference and all those fun things. So you can look at that and say, here, the problem is that you can't trust this team. And I'm going to be the first one, and everybody knows this. You can't trust them. I don't know. I've seen them play very, very, very good. And I've seen them play. I mean, listen, the second half against Minnesota, the second half against San Jose, the Open Cup game against LAFC.
The first half of Montreal.
The first half of Montreal.
And moments in the second half. Yeah. 60 minutes against Montreal of just domination.
But they are so fragile emotionally. I was talking to somebody about just the emotionalness of this team. And there's so many emotional players whenever you start to actually go through and be like, okay, let's talk about like the guys who really get in their own head, right? Cabral's in his own head. That guy's there. Julian Rajo, super emotional player. Yeah. Raheem Edwards, super emotional player, right? Like you can pick these guys off pretty easily. I mean, Delgado is a little more even keeled, but even he's more on the emotional side than he is on the Revelicen side. We call Revelicen a-emotional. He has no emotions. And listen, that has suited him a lot better in recent games of just being that even-keeled 7 to 10 guy. If you could give me 7 to 10 guys, right? Give me 7 to 10 performances from here on out, the Galaxy make the playoffs easily, right? It's these horrible moments. Yeah. And Koulibaly just passing the ball into the middle. Again, I think Williams could have got there. He slipped going out to it.
He hesitated.
Yeah.
It was kind of an awkward it was like, it seems like a record scratch. You may be wondering how I got here right now.
Right?
Yeah. It's like you had plenty of time to monologue what happened in that moment. It was just what is it? A comedy of errors is what happened with all three of those goals.
But it's individuals. It's like okay, so team wise, how do you fix? Well, how do you fix Koulibaly? Well, you tell him not to pass the ball to freaking nobody in the middle of the field. I mean, guess what? That works on your Pee-wee team. That works in Major League Soccer sometimes too, right? Again, for me, I'm sitting there talking to Araujo and I'm talking to Edwards and being like, you guys are defenders. I don't care if you're involved in the offense at all today. Play defense first.
But the other side of the coin is if you look at the Montreal game, the build up out of the back. And so you saw that work where when you do build it up out of the back and you kind of, see your tiki-taka soccer of Galaxy yesteryear, it can work, and they have shown that they can do that. It didn't connect in that regard, and so I think that's just the two sides of the coin. Is you can't say, well, just boot it upfield. Well, that's not necessarily what the game plan is, and that's not necessarily what they're asking them to do. So it's just a matter of executing and making it work. And the last thing I'll mention about this game is Williams mentioning in the post game press conference, that he should have slid. With that tight angle. And that's the one thing I was thinking is he obviously was waiting for that ball to be cut back across, and that's why he didn't. But you have to trust your defense and hope that everyone else is running back to cover for you. You have to slide in, at least cover that near post. But I did appreciate and respected the fact that he acknowledged it and said, that's on me. I sat in the locker room for 30 minutes thinking about, why didn't I slide? So I respect him for coming out and say that. But again, just another comedy of errors there.
Yeah. Again, I'll sort of push back on people who are like, oh, okay, we'll see. Greg Vanney's lost the team. He, again, hasn't. Not even close. But listen, they were talking about it a bunch of the broadcasts too, whenever, during this game, which is they were talking about Almeida, right? And coaching San Jose. And they're like, the players didn't want him to go.
They loved him. Yeah.
Yeah. They love playing for him, the whole deal. And so, you could have that situation here. You're not going to right now. Greg Vanney isn't going anywhere this year. And the Galaxy are very well aware that they have not allowed any coach to develop over the time. And that trying to do so now, especially with somebody who has so many irons in the fire, trying to fix so many things, you eventually have to set a base and have to set a foundation. And I think that they should leave Greg Vanney the hell alone, because I've seen too many coaches get run off with ideas and things that they wanted to do to change around the club. And that's gone on since 2017, and nobody has changed anything because nobody's in there long enough to change anything. Yeah.
But it almost makes you Monday morning quarterback and say, well, if we're giving Vanney this leash, why wasn't Siggy given this leash? Why wasn't GBS given this leash? And we obviously know, I think those situations were different, but you could say the same thing for those previous coaches as well.
Right.
But I've been someone who's had tendencies to lean into the Vanney, isn't necessarily coaching this team to its fullest potential. I'm someone who said that. But the more and more I look back on this and I look at the roster construction, I believe more and more in what Vanney is doing, because I'm thinking, if
I can't hold on.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
Something good happened. What happened?
It's a handful of players can stay. This is super. He's usually on the burn everything to the ground in the chat room. A handful of players can stay, but the new coach will get to bring in his players. Haven't we done this? Let's see.
This
Anolfo, he got players, right? Let's see. Siggy Schmidt, he got players. Guillermo Barros-Schelotto, did he get? Yep, he got players. Rinse and repeat. Hey, if you want the same results, go ahead. Keep changing things.
Well, that's the thing. We're in the how many rebuilds are we going to do in the last 3 years?
But this is the fourth one.
The point that I was getting around to Vanney is that Vanney is taking a team that regularly starts without two of their DPs, and that has I hate to disparage the guy, but I'm going to do it. Like, regularly starts Nick DePew and regularly starts Efrain Alvarez, who's not setting the world on fire, and they're managing to still technically be in a playoff spot. Like, okay, maybe other coaches could do a lot worse with those ingredients that are put in front of them when you look at it. And so that begs a bigger conversation of roster construction and the front office, and who are the players that they're bringing in, and who are they scouting, and who's in charge, who's driving the ship. And that's why you're seeing the Klein out crowd and the Karofsky out crowd. And now you're starting to see journalists ask questions. Hey, wait a minute. This is now 5 years. Sam Steshko, someone who said, hey, this has been, 5 years. It's like, you guys are just discovering this now? The Galaxy fans and, people who have been close to the Galaxy. Yeah, we've known this. We've seen this happening. We've watched the club deteriorate right before our eyes. And so now I think it's starting to become more and more apparent, and the shouts are getting louder and louder with the Klein out and the Karofsky out, because the decisions just seem to be all wrong with the roster construction, and some of that falls on Vanney. He's got to take ownership for the League Two All-Stars that he's assembled here in MLS. At some point, we need to have a different set of ambition, but also there's got to be if Vanney isn't the end all be all, there are other people who are bringing in players as well, and you need to be able to scout and bring in better players also.
Yeah. Just taking a look at again how much the DPs have hurt. You have Douglas Costa, who's played less than 50% of the total available minutes to him so far. So 1,710 total available minutes. He's played 802, so 46.9%. Kevin Cabral. Now, Kevin Cabral is an interesting case, right? Because Kevin Cabral has not been injured. He's been suspended for one game because he got a bogus red card. And so he's played in 18 games. There's been 19, right? He's played in 18. And he's now started 13 games, 946 minutes, 55.3% in total minutes played. So all your DPs, and Chicha leads them with 86.5%. Listen, 86.5% on minutes is great for Chicha. It's probably too many. Did we lose you, Eric? I can't hear you.
I muted myself, and then I forgot to unmute myself.
Okay, just checking. I just want to make sure it wasn't
this is, like I said, 2022. We've been living in this virtual world, and I I forgot how to use my microphone.
It's okay.
I was saying 85% is stellar, for a DP, especially given the PTSD that we have from previous injured DPs, and then you're seeing it happen with Cabral and Costa as well, not necessarily getting the minutes that we need out of our DPs.
Yeah. And so you're getting, like you said, 62.9% of your total. Do you think that that's enough? I'll tell you this, that, people are talking about how Vanney has sort of used Dejan Jovic and how whether or not he's underutilized them or stuff like that. He has some scoring now in 8 goals, and he leads the Galaxy in goals. He has that number, and he's fresh for this ridiculous stretch that's about to come through July and August. I don't hate that at all. In terms of how that goes, I think that he's going to get more minutes, and I think that Chicha's going to have to get less minutes. And if Chicha's not performing, then that's going to be another hit. It's going to be hard to take Chicha off. It's going to be hard to take Dejan off. And I think Vanney's going to balance that the best he can in order to get it. Short turnaround, high altitude in Colorado at a place that the Galaxy don't win. And so,
well, they don't win at home either against Colorado.
Absolutely true.
But the one thing that I'll say, it is difficult, with Chicha's not performing, how do you sit him on the bench? And with Dejan being on fire like he is, you have to give him the minutes. I think we're at a point where, Preston Judd is someone who saw a call up yesterday. He was on the bench. And so I think you need to put those two forwards, and then your backup now becomes Preston Judd. And, he's someone who's, going back to that USL quadruple A,
let's see.
Too good for USL, not good enough for MLS. Because of how well Dejan is performing, I think Judd is going to have to be the benefactor and have to be the guy off the bench, because I think you have to see how they work, both of them on the field moving forward, because the Efrain Alvarez of it all, being the cam or being there, it's not working. So maybe you put Cabral and Grandsur on the outside, and figure something else out and have your 4-4-2, but and with Delgado and Raveloson in the middle, or maybe Brugman comes in and becomes another one of those anchors or those pivot guys. But I think you're going to need to see Dejan and Chicharito on the field together, because those are your only options, right now that seem to be scoring.
I would like to point something out, only because Mr. Provino said the DPs account for half of our goals, right? So not too bad. If you're looking at the goals the LA Galaxy have scored, if you're thinking, and you haven't seen the projection, I haven't sent it out to you. So if you're thinking, are the LA Galaxy scoring more goals than last year, or the same amount of goals from last year, or less goals than last year? What does it feel like in your heart without sort of sitting there and saying, okay, where are we at?
Are you up to this point this season, the same amount of games?
No. So basically, they figure out that because I can project through. Yeah, I can project through the end.
Because there was a major downside at the end of last season, I'd say it's pretty close to about the same if you were to project them out. But I think how they started last season, I'd say like if you did up to this point, they'd probably less than they were last season. But if you were to project it out, it's about even. How'd I do?
Yeah, it is.
What are the results, Doc?
It is. So 50.1 right now, and they scored, I think, 50 goals last year.
Okay.
So 50.1 is the projection right now. Defensive goals at 44.7, still about 10 goals better than last season, even with the dramatic swing of the 3 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals, 3 goals. Now, the good news is the Galaxy have been scoring a lot of 2 goals, so the goal differential is still in the positive. But it's not going to stay that way for long if they keep doing these things. So, listen, the offense has picked it up actually a little bit, and that we should say the offense. Dejan has picked it up. I mean, I was
going to say I posted a meme yesterday of a guy with a gigantic backpack, and I said, I hope Dejan has a good chiropractor because he's been carrying this team on his back. So yeah, you're right. He has been someone who's carrying it, and Raveloson, once we learned that he was the next attacker in line, he's someone who's kind of turned it on as of late as well. So kind of interesting there. I don't know if you want to get to the super chat from Jose, because I think that's worth addressing.
For sure. A $20 super chat from Jose. We appreciate that. Thank you. Jose says, time for Klein to face the fan base. Sasha took the bullet for the team talking to ACB after the game while the rest of the team avoided eye contact, almost like McCourt era with the Dodgers. Maybe time for new ownership. I have always been against the new ownership, only because AEG has such deep pockets, right? It's like I think they're like 7th or 8th richest owners, or in the top 10 richest owners in the world. That's not in Major League Soccer, in the world.
Yeah.
AEG. So the money is there, but if they don't have the conviction, and I have not seen any sort of conviction from Dan Beckerman since he has been here, except to come and yell at Kevin Baxter whenever he gets a chance. There's some just real shallow, tiny egos that are sort of at play a lot of times. And it's
you mean upper level management has ego issues sometimes? That's so weird.
I just can't. I can't. Like, you would think if you're a professional, right? You would think that Chris Klein would be calling me up and saying, hey, Josh, can I come on the podcast and talk about this? You would think Jovan Karofsky would call up, be like, hey, Josh, can I come on the podcast and, talk to you about this? Because
let me defend myself. There's a reason why we brought Douglas Costa in, these analytics, this, that.
Exactly.
We met with them. We went around. Yeah. Let me defend my job. If I'm failing at my job, let me tell you, no, you got it wrong. Let me spin, let me talk, let me defend myself. But you're right. The lack of doing so, like Jose's saying, not facing, not getting in front of it, that shows a lack of backbone, a lack of spine, and not owning it, not wearing it. And just the fact that there's a ghost GM position. There's no technical, GM like Dennis DeClosa was. It's, who's really in charge. And so when you have no face on it, but we're not dumb. We know who the face is. We know it's Jovan Kurowski bringing in a lot of these players. We know Chris Klein is the president of the LA Galaxy. And at some point, you do need to face the fan base. People are upset. Even if I think you and I think the burn it down to the ground crowd is maybe taking it a little bit too far. Maybe
if they want to throw out the front office, I'm fine with that. Everybody in the front office could go. I don't.
But to that point, even if you're not completely on board with that being a justified reaction, you have to be aware that exists and that people are feeling that way. And it's not one or two people. There's a large number of fans who feel that way. Address it. Talk about it. Say, hey, I know that you're not feeling that, but we're kind of doing it. Hey, I know everyone's not feeling great about it, but let's look at the stats. Let's look at this team is salvageable. We're trying to do that. Why isn't the front office doing that? Why isn't the president of the club addressing one of those, skeletons that is in the room that everyone seems to be shouting? And I get it. You don't want to, if everyone's yelling at you and booing at you, that's not the most comfortable thing to come out and say. But at some point, that's your job. That's what you're an adult. You're the front of the club. You're the face of the organization. You need to face the music at some point.
Yeah, by the way, Christian gave us a $2 super chat, said, how long did it take for Bruce to get things going? Well, Bruce came in 2009, actually at the end of 2008, right? So end of 2008, a little bit, and then took over in 2009, and the LA Galaxy go to an MLS Cup in 2009. The only thing I will caution against you is we are not in 2009 anymore. There are 28 teams. The margin for error is so much smaller. But it's not like the LA Galaxy have done everything great and they've just been unlucky. That is not the case, right? I mean, so who was the best designated player the LA Galaxy have gotten since, Robbie Keane?
Zlatan Ibrahimovic.
Right. Okay. So Zlatan, and you totally wasted him, right? I mean, that team was not very good, and yet.
But that almost goes against what we're saying. Like that's a no-brainer move. Someone who almost fell in your lap, really.
I can make that move. You can make that move, right?
Yeah.
Well, I've always argued that getting Steven Gerrard was one of those no-brainer moves. It was sort of like he wants to come play, and then you go get him, right? And yes, me being an uneducated person on this and not being like, hey, let's have Steven run through a physical and see how he's doing, the whole deal. That ends up hurting the team, but. Giovanni Dos Santos, Jonathan Dos Santos. Roman Alessandrini was not a success. I know people would love to believe he's a great guy. He was not a success.
Yeah, it was looked back with rose-colored glasses, and he was a bright spot on a very bad team.
Right.
But you're right. He missed a lot of games, and he didn't live up to that full potential. But I will say, Roman Alessandrini, Giovanni Dos Santos, Jonathan Dos Santos, even Steven Gerrard, they had moments where they looked good. We have very rarely seen DPs who have been bad over the entire course of their tenure. And that's the scary thing about the Douglas Costa situation. Because even Chicharito, obviously that first year, very down year, but he had the bounce back year and he's being a serviceable forward this year. So it's not, he's not bad for the entirety. So that's the scary thing about both the Douglas Costa and the Kevin Cabral situation is we haven't had bad DPs for the entirety of their DP stint, and that's the scary part.
Costa, I think, is going to be okay. I don't think he's going to be great, and he needs to stay healthy, and I'm not sure. I'm not sure that there is a ton of hope for him in terms of that he's absolutely going to be a game changer. But I'll be honest, right now, I'll take 30 minutes at the end of a game to come in and just like torch people on sharp moves and things. He was dynamic against San Jose. They didn't have an answer for him. He was creating holes. He was opening things. It was where you would like to see him. If you want to be a naysayer and say he's a bust, then you can. I'm just saying that there is a pathway for him to be very complementary piece and a driving force in the LA Galaxy. But again, we're talking about a designated player. That's not what you bring a designated player in. It doesn't matter, but that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, but that's what you bring a TAM player in to do. That's what you bring, a MLS veteran in to do. That's not the job of a DP. You're right. At this point in the season, this is what we have, and especially when we talk about like rumors and updates and what's going on, it's bone dry right now. There's nothing going on. So given this is the roster, yes, that's what we're going to have to rely on, and we'll have to wait and see how it goes. But that's that's where we're at.
I always forget Pavone, right? Pavone was a good designated player, right?
Correct. Didn't start it right. He didn't come in as a designated player.
No, he came in as a TAM player. Remember, they got him for free, free loan. I don't know how that works. I don't know.
You knew a guy who knew a guy.
Yeah, I have no idea. But But
he was
Pavone
after Zlatan. But I'd say Zlatan's stint was more successful than Pavone's.
Sleepy Douglas Costa, by the way, is my new favorite name in the chat room. And Sleepy Douglas Costa says JPA is an excellent South American scout for LAFC. 100%. No LA Galaxy coach has been greenlit or given the ability to set up a scouting network. You want to know why you're not getting the players that you should get? Because the Galaxy don't have a scouting network. All right. Do you, I mean, it's hands down. We've known about this for a while. Like, there's no scouting network. There's no analytics department, right? No dedicated analytics department, right? All these things. There's none of that has been allowed to be put into place. Siggy Schmidt wanted to put it into place, right? I don't know that Guillermo Barros-Schelotto wanted to. I imagine he did. I know Dennis DeCloso wanted to do that, right? Again, being allowed to spend the money to set this up. Greg Vanney seems like one of the first guys who's being allowed to try and set this stuff up. And it does not happen overnight, but you are playing catch up with the New York Cities, with the Atlantas, with the LAFCs, with everybody who you shouldn't have had to play catch up with. But when Bruce left, Bruce didn't have a scouting network because Bruce was sort of like, I'll just go into my Rolodex and be like, Eddie Lewis.
Yeah.
Come on down. You know?
Well, and that's the thing. You go with what you know. And I think the fact that we haven't seen an attempt is kind of the frustrating thing. And so you can't just like be broad and say, hey, go to South America and find like people. Like you need to have some type of thing. So I think about like Marcelo Sarvis and Juninho, how they're involved. They have roots in Brazil. Why not have them go on, lengthy trips to Brazil, scout the Brazilian league, and they're familiar with the territory, have former clubs there. Like you don't have to start from scratch. You can go with what you have, the resources that are available, and start chipping away at those things. But the fact is that there's been not even an attempt, that there's or at least no public acknowledgement of something like that, in the works. It's very frustrating.
And it should be frustrating, and it has been frustrating. But again, if you tear that down right now, right? This is, again, some of this stuff you have to, it's like you're a farmer, you're planting fields, right? Well, every time the farmer changes, you can't go out there and tear up well, I want to grow carrots. Okay, well, I'm going to grow carrots. So you plant the carrots, you water the carrots start coming out of the ground, you change farmers. The farmer's like, well, I don't want carrots, I want potatoes. And then so he goes out and he puts the potatoes in, and then you fire him, and the next guy comes out and he goes, well, I don't want to plant potatoes, I want to plant celery. And he goes out and he plants the celery, the whole deal. And you're like, but we're still hungry.
And we haven't sold any. We
haven't sold any of those crops because we haven't let them come to.
Yeah.
So you have to let some stuff develop, and I'm willing to be more patient on that because I think that's important in this. That's more important than what is going on right now.
And it's also the fifth coach, and the whatever it is. We've learned. Okay, it's obviously not the coach. So
you can change coaches again.
Yeah,
right?
You can, but it's that we've seen that movie before. So I'm fine with something else needs to change in the periphery. It can't just be the coach every single time.
Give me a smart coach, and Vanney is smart, and just not smart on field stuff. Just he's smart across an organization. He understands what needs to be there. Now, do I still think there should be a general manager? Yes. But I've thought that for a while. I would like a general manager. I would like somebody confident enough to be like, I'm the general manager. I make decisions. Here, come talk to me.
Yeah.
Come talk to me. I'm going to tell you how we found this person. I'm going to tell you how we scouted this person. I'm going to tell you that we had 4 other people, and the reason that we didn't choose them was this. I'll tell you right now, Dennis DeCloso was an extreme open book on that. You asked him any question, he would give you an answer. He's like, no, we're not talking to that person. Yes, we are talking to that person, and we're actually talking to 3 other people, and these are the guys that we're talking to, and we really like him, and we think this guy's going to be good. You need to have confidence in that.
Yeah.
I believe that Greg Vanney is open to having those types of conversations. But again, unless he's given he is the GM and he can talk about all this stuff and he can do all this stuff, it's obfuscation, right? Am I saying that right? Right?
I have no idea.
It's obscure. They're trying to make it obscure on purpose, right?
Yes.
So it's like frosted glass. It's like, oh, I can kind of see through it, but I don't know. Yeah. There's like a shadow back there or something,
There's no problem. If you can't see the problem, there's no problem to solve. It's ignoring the engine light in your car.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Let me just put some tape over it. Yeah, well, I reset the engine light.
Yeah, it's
fine.
But
you're supposed to fix it. Yeah, no, I reset the button. I hit the button. It's not there anymore.
It said check engine. I checked it. I was like, yep, still there.
Good times.
So anyway, I mean, those are the things that you need to say play out. Now, Vanney was hopeful that Brugman would be on Friday. We're recording on a Thursday night. So if you're looking for any Brugman updates, it looks like Gaston Brugman should be in LA here this weekend-ish, right? I don't... Listen,
they're probably not training on Friday. Most likely eyeing the Atlanta game next week, if I were to guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't see him. Yeah, I think you're not going to see him this weekend. That's not happening. Vanney was very emphatic, said that, hey, this guy is sending us videos of his workouts that he's doing, so we're convinced that he's actually in okay shape, right? So it's not like, it's one of those things that's, everybody goes, well, shouldn't they know if he's in okay shape? Well, have you ever had like a Zoom call with somebody and then you met him in person? You're like, wow, you look a lot different than you do on your Zoom call.
Wait, I take offense to that personally. I think I look pretty good with this lighting, but yeah, in person, not so much.
So that's really where you're at this point, which is, yes, we've seen him play. Yes, we know him. Yes, we know that he's been sending us stuff saying, I'm ready, I'm here, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm training hard. Here's the videos of my workouts. Here's this. I mean, straight up sending videos of workouts. I mean, there's some texting for you.
I was gonna say, if you're savvy did you hear about Rob Gronkowski, what he did in the off season?
No.
He worked out. We went to a high school field, took like 4 or 5 different outfits, did a bunch of sprints in different outfits, and then every week he'd send a different video of him in a different outfit sprinting and saying, yeah, I'm working out this
working out. Yeah, it's working hard.
Leave it to Rob Gronkowski to game the system. So you're not fooling us, Gaston Brugman.
By the way, Matt says, I hope they're doing a better due diligence than they did with Costa. This is exactly what we're talking about, though. This is the lack of surveillance, the lack of ability. And I was talking to an analytics guy. I won't use his name because I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but he was like, it's not just about like the net. It's like, how big of a net did you cast? And then how did you narrow down those people in that list? He's like, if you're doing that wrong, like if you're making a mistake in any of those sort of initial things, you're excluding players that you shouldn't exclude, and you're including guys you shouldn't be including. And if you get that wrong, now all of a sudden your fishbowl that you had that had like 20 guys in it has 2 guys in it, and you know what? They're both belly up already. And that's how you end up with Douglas Costa. It's like, oh, well, we had 20 guys, but Douglas Costa was the best that we could find. It's the whole deal. It's like, well, no, that's not the right answer. Right? And so...
Or maybe he was, but then you need to zoom out and say, well, why was he the best out of this 20? We need to find a different 20 as someone.
We need to look at our algorithm.
Different system to bring up a different situation. Because maybe that is true. Maybe we're not being fed a bunch of BS, and maybe for whatever they looked at, Douglas Costa rose to the top of their list. But now you need to go back and say, okay, what did we do to get him on the top of the list?
Right.
And let's do something different.
They undervalued goal scoring. They were sort of like, goal scoring not as important as ability to take fire Instagram videos at really sweet, mansions in Beverly Hills.
I was going to say, he's enjoying his time here in LA. I'll give him that. And
well, everybody at first was like, where is that? It's in Bel Air.
Fair or foul for, Hercules Gomez kind of went at him for, not reading the room and things like that. But that is one of those red flags that does pop up. One of the first places when he came to LA, it's not him at, Dignity Health Sports Park. It's him at Rodeo Drive with us. It's like, okay, if that was number one on your priority, bit of a red flag. Maybe we could have read into that a little bit more. Someone who loves to read into Instagram, you can. But he also posted something today that he's focused. He's in the game. He's worried about it. Posting his
wife sent him the video of Hercules Gomez going off. Right.
I don't know how much truth there is to that, but yeah.
Man, I would be like, why are you sending me that? Like, why? If my wife
who talked to his wife that said that she sent him that?
Well, like if my wife was like, hey, this other podcast is making fun of you here, I'd be like, I don't need that in my brain space. Like as we're speaking about emotionally damaged people and like, the Galaxy and all that, I'm emotionally damaged. I don't need that in there. So,
good times.
We'll see how that goes. Going through stats and looking at stuff, listen, it's not pretty in terms of home versus away, and the LA Galaxy are really bad at home, and they're still better than they are away. So
that's the interesting thing. Yeah, it's not. You would think by the way they're playing, okay, maybe there's a huge swing, the other direction, but no, they are actually better at home with the total of the games.
They 1.45 points per game. And by the way, well underneath the 1.87, which is their average at home, right? So a significant undercurrent there. So 1.71 last year at home. You go to away, and the Galaxy are actually outperforming their historic average on away. So in a way, they are better on the road than they are at home, 1.38 points per game. That being said, I think if you're trying to find anything that sort of, makes you feel warm and fuzzy about Colorado, you're not going to find it. 16 points at home, 11 points on the road so far for the Galaxy. But remember, the Galaxy have not been quote unquote away since when was the last time they were away? Actually away. Was it Austin? The last time they were actually away? Somebody needs to check that.
I got no answers for you there, but I will say something just to put a bow on the Douglas Costa piece. I got to shout out Tito in the chat. He said, the LA Galaxy front office doesn't think a player like Raul Ruidiaz is sexy enough for LA. Diego Costa comes with a resume and screams sexy, and so that's the difference. And I agree. You need someone who's not going to be the flashy signing.
I'm that way. But I do agree with the stars. Win bars type thing.
Yeah,
so.
But then. Yeah, you look like someone like for the crew, Cucho, when he came in, that's not someone who's necessarily super sexy, but that's all business.
Here's the thing, and somebody asked, where does Dayon fit in next year as the Galaxy go? I mean, his role is only going to increase as he keeps scoring. He's making it impossible for Greg to take him off the field, which is what you want from a player, right? Mm-hmm. He just needs to keep up that energy. I would very much still be cautious with him. He's playing a ton of minutes now. They're starting to rack up. You don't want him to be tired because he seems to thrive in these moments. That being said, he needs more minutes. I mean, you need to get that guy 60 minutes every single game coming up. But you also probably need to teeter-totter him with Chicha coming up as well because you have so many games.
Yeah.
This is just a Saturday at altitude is going to be brutal. And it's warm in Denver too, and it's not going to be a pleasant game, and it's not going to be an easy game, and you're not going to have Chicha. So I don't think you're going to have Chicha. Right now, I don't expect that Delgado or Chicharito will be back in time.
It's unlikely, depending. I think the reports coming out with that they found out on Wednesday doing some sleuthing. Mark Delgado made a tweet with a facepalm on Tuesday, so I think that may have been the day that he found out.
I did not give Mark Delgado COVID. All right, I would just like to point out I did not give Chicha COVID. I got it from probably the same people that they got it from because we were in the same circles. Listen, I'm telling you right now. They're in the press box. I think 3 people who got it. I know that there are some staff both on the LAFC side and the LA Galaxy side that got it. And by the way, I should also point out, just that way I don't get yelled at by somebody at the Galaxy, that Chicharito and Mark Delgado are in health and safety protocols, and that doesn't necessarily mean that they have COVID. It does, but it doesn't necessarily. There's health and safety protocols. Okay, I was in health and safety protocols. All right.
My point is that it's too close of a day to see them. The one benefit that they have going in their favor is that there's no midweek game next week. They'll have a week's rest.
Right.
So if you're gonna put it all on the table, this is a game where yes, you're going away at altitude, you're missing some of your players, but lay it all out there because you're gonna have a week to recover and get right.
John, by the way, says we need a Taylor Swift level signing. That's a big level. Could Taylor Swift just become a Galaxy fan though? I would like to still try to figure out a way to get her on the podcast.
The funny thing is, you look at the types of people who the Galaxy give the celebrity cachet to. She doesn't fit the mold of that. So I think that makes it that makes it that much funnier. Okay, Taylor Swift is a G.
Can they just get Kevin Ryder to come on our show? Maybe that's it. Kevin needs to come on our show. I know. I actually DM'd him. Kevin, if you're listening, I did DM you to see if you wanted to come on the show. I know that sometimes you do listen, so if you would like to come on the show, please, I'll kick Hammer out in a second. You could do whatever you want. You're a professional.
Fair enough.
Yeah. So anyway, that's where the Galaxy sit right now. I mean, listen, they're not in a good spot. They're in a funk. I don't love where their headspace is at. I don't know if they need. This is Los Angeles. We should get a good shaman cleaning in there. Get some sage going.
Saging. Yeah, we need a good saging for this team. I agree. We need to get the demons out of here.
Yeah, this is maybe they need to watch some Ace Ventura: Pet Detective a little bit because that also exercises the demons a little bit. So however it works. So something needs to. I just want to see the edge. And I think they're better whenever they have the edge on defense, and they don't need to sell out on offense as much. And I think that's Greg's big concern anyway. And I think Brugman sort of helps that a lot, actually. I think that calms things down, and they're expecting him to calm things down. I don't know. I've watched highlights of the guy. I haven't seen him play. I know
Yeah.
we'd always like to pretend like, oh, well, this is great. I have no idea. Greg is high on him, very high on him.
Yeah.
They've watched him for over a year. That says something about how much they want him, right? And so, hey, either they're fixated and they're going to get it wrong again, right? Or he's going to be, a decent. Listen, it's all levels. It could be anything. He could come in and just be a 6-10 guy all the time. And
That's the thing. I expect him to come in and be like kind of like a Raveloson was last season. Come in, look solid, impress the team, and then it's just a matter of he's going to be able to keep that consistency. Because I think whenever you go to a new club, there's like an initial burst.
Yeah,
you always come out a little.
See Ryan Raveloson.
Yeah, so I think you're going to see that from him. You're going to see a bulldog type guy based on what other fans and other scouts have been saying about the type of guy that he is. So I'm looking forward to see him join the team because maybe they need just someone else who's going to come in and. Maybe that's too much pressure to put on someone like Gaston Brugman, but maybe you just need at this point in the season someone from the outside to come in and say, what's wrong with you guys? Wake up, smack some people around a little bit, and just say, oh, that's right. Someone's going to come in here and give us some hard tackles and bump into us and push us a little bit more. Maybe they just maybe that new blood could be something that will make a difference.
The big deal is that the Galaxy still have room apparently for one more player. How they do that and how they get another international slot and how they sort of make that addition, I'm not 100% sure. I don't know. But
it's also extremely quiet right now. No rumors, no nothing. Yeah, that's.
You got the fervor of the opening of the window, and now this one was always going to be more difficult. We sort of talked about that. Greg sort of hinted at it. He thought it was optimistic that they were going to get it done, but it by no means felt like it was locked and done like we were talking about Brugman. That was locked and done for a while. Let's make ridiculous comparisons for a little bit for Dejan Joveljic. 65 minutes per goal right now. He's scoring a goal once every 65 minutes. Zlatan Ibrahimovic in the record-breaking year for the LA Galaxy where he scored 30 goals, 29 games played. In 2,610 minutes, he averaged 1.03 goals per game. Or actually, that's games per goal, I believe. It's like basically he was scoring a goal every game that he played, right? That's what his average was. Now, Dejan is at 0.47. You're not going to get that same with Dejan because he doesn't usually play for 90 minutes, and that's calculated, right? So minutes per goal is the per 90 minute one that you want to look at. He's scoring a goal once every 65 minutes. Zlatan was doing it once every 87 minutes. That's
at what point? How many minutes do you think is a minimum to where he truly belongs on the list? I think 1,000 minutes.
I don't think it's minutes. I think it's goals. It's like if he keeps scoring goals, he's on the list, Eric. I mean, it's like one of those. If he ends up with 20 goals, which I realize
in 1,000 minutes
and like over 1,000 minutes, it's kind of hard to sit there and say, okay, that dude is like for real.
Yeah.
And I'm sure somebody could do a better job of pulling stats. I just don't have everybody's stats on every LA Galaxy team ever to be able to pull all of those and say, oh, well, this guy actually, if you had more than 1,000 minutes in a season, had more, that type of thing. We could do a really, a better comparison. So anyway, so there's that. If you want to look at year over year, the LA Galaxy at this point in 2021 had 35 points through 19 games. They're at 27 points through 19 games. That's not great. They either started, Eric, I'm of two minds right now. They either started their last third of the season collapse early, and therefore they'll be able to pull out of it, or they're gonna this is a bump, and then they're gonna be able to pull out of this a little bit.
I would go with that one. I think this is the skid. We're going to go on a skid, and then you're going to give yourself enough runway to bring yourself back up come the end of the season.
I mean, I'm here for it. I'm ready for it. However they want to do it, I'm ready to pay attention. We talk about scoring first or allowing first, and how just ridiculously integral it is to the LA Galaxy. 7-1-1 right now whenever they score the first goal. 1-7-1 whenever they allow the first goal, and
a literal mirror image there. That's crazy.
Their last 3 games that they have allowed the first goal, they've allowed 3 goals, right? So that was against Minnesota 3-2. That was against LAFC 3-2. That was against San Jose 3-2, right? So 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. Those are 1-goal losses, but they feel so much more whenever you're losing by 3 goals at halftime. So,
or you score in the 87th minute to make it 3-2. So it just doesn't feel the same. Yeah, I agree. And how many times are we going to be the broken record on this? That the LA Galaxy are a counterattacking team that when they bomb forward like Araujo does, like Edwards does, that leaves themselves exposed, and then they inevitably give up that early goal, and then it's game over. So it's kind of feast or famine, because then when you bomb forward and you get the early goal like you do against Montreal, then you get the blowout. So it's just again, consistency. Which one are you going to get?
Yeah, and I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I haven't figured out this team. If I did, I would be all over it. Interesting thing: the LA Galaxy have not lost the first game of a month all year. All year, the first game of the month, they have won all but June. June they drew their first game, and that came in the middle of the month too. That was like June 19th by the time they ended up playing in June. Weird stat. But what I saw it in the chart whenever I brought up the chart, I was sitting there going, I go, are you serious? And whenever you look at this, even in July, beat Montreal 4-0.
Well,
right?
Here we go. So while we're just making up stats here, they haven't lost more than 2 games in a month either. So they've used their quota. Now they got to win and draw the next 3.
They have 3 more. They have 3 more to get it. So
you have to. That's the rules.
That's what it says.
Yeah.
If we're looking at Supporters Shield again, Austin up there with 40 points, LAFC at 39, LA Galaxy in 12th, 27 points. Starting to move more towards that top 50% of the league instead of top third. So you need to see.
Yeah, that was the shift. Yeah, I think last week we were saying this is a top 1/3 team. We're now a top half team,
which is good. There's still 14 teams.
28 teams in the league. Yeah,
I mean, yeah, and even more in this case, there's 16 teams that are worse than you right now, but not by that much. It's a log jam in there. Look at Philadelphia at 36 and New York City at 35. I still like watching the Eastern Conference a whole bunch. Austin leading that Western Conference. Nashville. So it goes Austin, LAFC, Nashville, RSL. RSL lost to Atlanta, by the way. Minnesota, Dallas, and LA, and then Seattle just below the LA Galaxy. So this weekend, a place where they are looking at, but a place that they're looking at going against the Colorado Rapids, a difficult place for them to play. We'll tell you here in a second just the stats on that. You got the Colorado game as we look at the schedule coming up on July 16th. July 24th, LA Galaxy host Atlanta. Same Atlanta team that just beat RSL at home. Atlanta, a little fire into their belly after Joseph Martinez tried to
there's a guy who's someone who needs to go and slap a few guys in the face and let's come on, wake up, let's get it right. So I respect the move from Joseph Martinez.
Then you got Dallas. This is the one that's close to you. The LA Galaxy traveling to Dallas. I'm sure that'll be nice. And how hot was it today?
It was 10. It's been 105 consistently for the last 3 weeks. So end of July, I'm sure it'll cool down.
That's what always happens, right? Middle of summer. That's how it works. You go into August, and then obviously you have the game against Chivas de Guadalajara. That one's at SoFi Stadium. Kansas City at Sporting Kansas City. Home to Vancouver. Home to Seattle. That'll be a fun game. Away to New England and away to Toronto. That road trip is not frosty either. And of course, Toronto's going to get all their Italians lined up by that time too. So. Bob
Get your Italians in order here.
Bob will have the Italians firing in on all cylinders there, I'm sure, by the time they get there. And then into September, home to SKC, away to Nashville, away to Vancouver, home to Colorado. And then they have that makeup game during the international break where they go up to San Jose, and then just 2 games in October. And that rounds it out. Again, we're rapidly closing out the season.
Great segue. Well done.
That's why I'm a professional. All right. Colorado Rapids and LA Galaxy coming up this Saturday, July 16th. It's a 6 p.m. Start time on Spectrum Sportsnet and on LAGalaxy.com. 6:08 p.m. is your kickoff time. The Colorado Rapids, they are just an enigma this year, and they got Giassi Zardes on that team now. And if you can't tell me that Giassi Zardes isn't just getting all jacked up to play the LA Galaxy, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, you look at this.
I love Giassi, and that's the one thing that I'll say is the last time the LA Galaxy played a Giassi team, they beat him. They beat Columbus.
Right.
Last time they came to Dignity Health Sports Park. So they have their record against Giassi is better than their record with Giassi. So that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I think that probably didn't make sense.
No, I mean, I understand what you're saying. I get it. I get it. So anyway, so you got the Colorado Rapids who are in 13th. If I could trust this Galaxy team, that might give me some expectation. I mean, listen, this was a Colorado team with Robin Fraser, and we all know that Robin Fraser obviously played with LA Galaxy, with Greg Vanney, and just there's a rivalry there, but it's a friendly,
respectful.
It's a respectful rivalry, but they both want to beat each other, and you can guarantee it. And so Greg will want to beat Robin in a heartbeat, and I don't think he did last year. In fact, we know he didn't, because the LA Galaxy haven't beaten Colorado in their last 7 tries. The last time, it was funny, Matt Pollard, who covers Colorado, is a good friend of mine, and we've collaborated on a bunch of different things whenever it's come to pool reporter questions and things like that. He was laughing because I tweeted out they haven't beat him since September 2nd, I believe, of 2017. And he goes, that was the game that Jack McBean came out and scored 2 goals. 2017. 2017, Jack McBean, right? That was what we're throwing back to. That's the last time the LA Galaxy beat Colorado, not just on the road, which it was.
Period.
Yeah. The Galaxy have not had any luck whatsoever playing against Colorado in a long time. 32 wins for Colorado, 44 wins for the LA Galaxy, 12 draws between them. Let's see. The last time they were in Colorado, 1-1 draw. I guess that's better. September 11th, 2021, the Galaxy won 1. Otherwise, it was at home a loss for the LA Galaxy both times to the Colorado Rapids. There just isn't... there's not a lot of room in this particular rivalry lately for the LA Galaxy to find any points. And I feel like we talk about mental midgets, right? The LA Galaxy, whenever they go to Colorado, are mental midgets. And I don't know that I've seen an LA Galaxy team react since maybe the 2014 team did under Bruce Arena, where they went down like 3 goals in the first half. And Bruce was saying, we're going to see if we're going to get a reaction out of this. And they ended up winning, I think, 4-3 in that game. So that's what you're seeing from this LA Galaxy team. Is going to Colorado, not going to be easy, not going to be fun. There's part of me, Eric, before we really sort of let you look at 538, there's part of me that thinks that this is exactly the type of game this LA Galaxy team needs, which is you get on the road, you get away from Dignity Health Sports Park, where they have not been real strong mentally, right? And you go and you grind it out. It is a grind, and you know it's a grind, and you know your back is up against the wall, and you're going to be missing Mark Delgado again, probably. You're going to be missing Chicharito again, probably, right? You're going to go in there with guys who are tired, and you're going to go run. And Colorado just drew Orlando in Orlando, 1-1. That is the one good thing about this is...
Wasn't it in...
Oh, was it in
It was
Colorado?
at Dick's Sporting. Yeah, it was in Colorado.
Oh, man.
Yeah, but still. Hit us with a yeah, but still.
Yeah, but still.
But I will say that this is a Colorado team that hasn't won since May 22nd when they beat the Sounders at home. So again, this team hasn't won in a very long time. So they've drawn, but there's a lot of losses, a lot of draws in there. So you are going in against a team that's down. I think they just traded Mark Anthony Kaye, Andre Shinishiki, who's someone who the Galaxy he's tormented the Galaxy. He's no longer with the team. So you're going in there and you're saying, okay, maybe this is a team that's down. You're coming off an embarrassing loss. This could be a bounce back game. And I don't know if we're ready to talk about 538 yet.
I'll go ahead. Why not? Let's just throw it all in there.
So yesterday's 538 stat, the fun fact is that the Galaxy had the highest win percentage according to 538, and
which they've never won this year, right? Whenever that's happened. And
the Galaxy actually, of all the away teams, have one of the better percentages against Colorado. Colorado is still favored. 44% chance to win. LA Galaxy with a 31% chance to win, and then a 25% for a draw. So out of all the road games going on in MLS, they actually have a pretty favorable chance. They're a decent road team there. So this could be a game where you could see the Galaxy bounce back. It's an opportunity, but if they make the mistakes like they did against LAFC and against San Jose, then I don't have a lot of hope for this team, but it's definitely possible.
But by the way, I'm basing my assumptions on Chicharito and Delgado on the fact that they both had COVID, which again is an assumption on my part and not a known fact. But that they had COVID, and that the requirement to clear yourself from those protocols is either 2 back-to-back negative tests 24 hours apart, right? So that's hard to do if you've had COVID, by the way. You're telling me, the guy who's now taken like 6 or 7 tests over the last 5 days, trying to get a clear test. So that's hard to do. Or it's, I think, 5 days or up to, I think it might even be 7 days for the league, but 7 days, no symptoms from that. And that 7 days, there's not enough time for them to get around. So the 7 days doesn't work. And if you have COVID, it's hard to do the back-to-back tests. And I think Sasha ended up missing about a week and a half whenever he did it. And so I would expect that that's sort of what we're going to see. Now, could be totally surprised. Maybe they just got exposed and they didn't test positive, and so therefore they're going to be cleared. As Greg Vanney said after the game against San Jose, he said that's not my department in terms of he's not in charge of that. It's actually like league protocols that allow people to get back. Yeah. It's like
it's a very HR situation.
Yeah. It's like I don't have any control over that. I can't tell them. I can't tell them when to go. I can't tell them when not to go. But yeah, it's one of those. This is an extremely difficult game. Because it's always hard to play at Colorado. I don't think they've been great. I think that they have a lot of questions, but they did come back and draw with Orlando, and that's not always an easy task, for this team. So
once Orlando goes up on you, they're a hard team to come back on.
So you have to trust Robin Fraser on this, that he is going to be that good. So, so I'm not expecting those guys. So whenever that happens, that makes a short bench again. And with the short bench, that's a problem. $5 super chat from Lex. Would it be crazy to have Edwards start at left wing with Cabral on the right and Leerdam or Gasper play left back and stay home defensively? I actually like Gasper coming in. I didn't have a problem with his play whatsoever.
He's someone who I thought he got disappeared off the earth. I was like,
he had that groin injury.
But he had a screamer of a game, and then we never saw him again. But I thought, I agree with you. When he came on the field, I thought he looked pretty good. And part of that could have been they're resting probably Edwards with an anticipation of the weekend game. You need to kind of get that rotation in there. I don't think it's crazy to have Edwards on the wing. And that's one of those permutations that we've always talked about is you do your 3 center backs and then put Araujo as a midfielder and Edwards as a midfielder. And they have defensive tendencies, but then they don't have that defensive responsibility if you rely on your center backs a little bit more. I don't think they're going to try that against Colorado. This is not the game to experiment and try new things. I doubt it, but I like the idea. Yeah.
4-2-3-1. It's going to be simple. Vandy's going to keep it simple, and he's going to try to keep a defensive shape, which is going to be harder without Doug Otto in there. He's really that guy who sort of goes back and forth on that. So usually he's the bellwether. And Greg talked about it after the game against San Jose. Somebody said, hey, did you miss Doug Otto? He's like, absolutely.
Yeah, you think so? You think we missed him? Yeah.
100%, right? 100% we did it. So LA Galaxy taking off to play against Colorado coming up on Saturday, 6 p.m. start for us here on the Pacific time, which means a 7 o'clock start in Colorado proper. 6:08 p.m. is your kickoff time. Again, Spectrum Sportsnet, Kobe Jones, Joe Tutino, and Nikki K on that call, and LAGalaxy.com if you don't get Spectrum. So that's sort of where we're at. Anything else? We're good. We're done, right?
What's our guaranteed to be wrong prediction? As always, it's what we're good for.
Oh, they win this game for no reason whatsoever. I have no idea why. I refuse to believe they're as bad as they have been playing. And that's stubbornness on my part. Yeah. Please understand. I have no inkling or feeling. It's just they can't be as this bad because they're not that bad.
And that's why I go the other direction. I say no Mark, no Chicha. It's a 2-1 loss. Away at altitude to a bottom dwelling team. Of course, that's the game that we lose. So I prove me otherwise, LA Galaxy. But right now, the way you've been playing the last 2 games, I fully expect a loss away.
Okay, I understand. Mike Gray, $5 super chat. He says, just let me know if you need to see my negative COVID test. It wasn't me. Yeah, it wasn't me either, Mike. That's not how it works. I can't give it to him if I haven't had it, right? I didn't have it at the point, so I couldn't give it to him. And then our sugar daddy Herb is in the chat as well. $50 super chat from Herb.
$50.
So thank you.
Herb,
thank you for that.
Holy moly.
We appreciate that. As always, hey Josh, welcome back. Appreciate it. Couldn't make the live show. Wishing you a speedy recovery. Shout out to the Hammer as well. Always in there. See?
Appreciate that, Herb. See, you know what I love about Herb? Couldn't make the live show, but he makes it every time.
But he makes the live show. He's right there.
Super sub. He's the Dejan Jovovic of Corner of the Galaxy. Just shows up, clutch moments, always happening. So yeah, appreciate you, Herb. Thanks for coming out.
Sleepy Douglas Costa, by the way, said, who's a better haircut, Josh or Chase Gasper? Josh needs his haircut and couldn't because he had the vid.
You guys all have the wrong answer. The correct answer is Mike Gray. The Brazilian blowout. Looking fantastic. Mike has that's the correct
luscious
answer.
Locks. He does. So certainly one of the things. By the way, the fanciest cat who lives around not too far around me, by the way, stuck at home with COVID. Been there, done that, dude. And he says very grateful for these live shows. So we appreciate that. We're very grateful for you guys as well. Thank you for everybody for dealing with us not having a show on Monday. I apologize for that. I really wanted to do it. My wife was absolutely not. So not going to do that at all. And so we're back. Hopefully I'm on the mend about, like I said, 90%. As long as the COVID brain doesn't say anything stupid here in the next 20 or 30 seconds, I think we probably have survived. So LA Galaxy, nice. Colorado Rapids coming up here rapidly, as they say, on Saturday. So anything else, Eric, you want to get to, or are we good?
That's it. I know everyone's feeling down right now. We're not feeling good. Everyone's ready to, burn it all to the ground, but still a lot of season left. Don't get down. There's still a lot of Stephen left to turn around. Don't peak too soon. Now's not the time to be peaking.
No.
Yeah, we gotta wait.
You
We're
could
almost there.
slip and slide a little bit here.
Yeah,
Slip and
yeah.
slide, right?
It's okay. We're gonna be okay. It's okay not to be okay, but we're gonna be okay.
We're going to be okay. No doubt about it. 100%. When you know what, we're going to have a lot of fun being I told you they were going to be better whenever they're going to be better, right? I told you. Do you remember when we did that show after they lost to San Jose?
Bad, yeah.
We told you they weren't that bad. I told you they were going to be better. So anyway, we'll see. They're a shallow team. I mean, they're not emotionally, just in terms of depth.
Maybe emotionally too. Yeah.
I wish they were more shallow emotionally. I want them not to feel so much. They need to they need to stop listening to Dashboard Confessional. I'm starting to somebody, by the way, I think it was Sleepy Douglas Costa was like my emo LA Galaxy, right? Like there should be an emo band that's all about the LA Galaxy. So I can feel it. A little Dashboard. Yeah, I know. Good. All right, Eric, tell people where they can find you. Let's go.
All right. As always, you can find me on Twitter at HammerEV. You can also find me on Instagram at Galaxy Profile. That's Galaxy PROFOUL.
All right. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at JGuesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Cornerofthegalaxy.com. That's where you can find all of our shows, all of our videos. All that stuff is right there for you. Cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can get these lovely shirts that I'm wearing. They're still for sale if you'd like to. Another round is being rounded up. So just go to our website, click the shop button, and you can take right there. All right, I think that does it for Eric, the Portuguese Hammer Vieira. I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast. And be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo, and on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.